and Kuda Biza here. I'm really excited about this episode, mainly because my friend Tyler Hall is going to talk about how he took his side hustle to become his main hustle. And if you ask me, that is really the dream, really, right? You want to be able to live life on your own terms, and you want to, create your own financial destiny and future. And Tyler was able to do that. And he started off working in a factory straight out of high school or college, I believe. And from there, he was working long shifts in the factory, but he wasn't happy, and he felt like he wasn't really making progress in his life. And somewhere, somehow, he found out about online businesses, started an online business, and now it's a multi-million-dollar business. He's his own boss now, and he doesn't have to worry about these long shifts. He has more time with his family, and he's achieving the things that he would have wanted to achieve, but might not have been able to if he had stayed working in the factory. So I'm going to bring Tyler on, and he's going to talk about his journey, and I hope that you guys get some really cool takeaways on how he took his side hustle to become his main hustle. So, Tyler, how are you doing?
Hey, Kuda, I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great. So I was just giving people the intro of how you started off working in a factory. It was a big paper factory. You're putting all this paper on these rolls. You're working long shifts, more than 8 hours a day. You want to talk about that time in your life?
Yeah, so I worked in a paper mill called Monadnock Paper Mill. It's in New Hampshire. They've been around for about 200 years. My father actually worked for them, and that's how I knew about them. So as soon as I graduated college, I went to work there so I could pay back my student loans. So I did that. What they did, though, is they had swing shifts, which would mean like 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. one week, and then the next week it would be 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. So your life cycle of home life and all that stuff, obviously not very healthy. Then once I got a little bit further along, they paid for my master's in business management and finance. I got promoted to a supervisor, and then the shifts were still swing shift, but they were a little bit more manageable. 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. and 3 p.m. to 7 or 11 p.m. the following week. So, but as you can see, as you're getting older and you're thinking about families and stuff like that, it's just not something that is really easy to manage. Yeah, especially if you want to be present, and I do want to be present. So that's kind of where I started to get frustrated because I didn't want to be on the swing shift, and they wouldn't move me off of it. Then my college roommate, who actually started his entrepreneurial journey way earlier than me, had started an online fitness business, and it took off. And he was like, "Well, you can either do something about it, or you can keep sitting there." So it was in January of 2018, and I was sitting on the couch, and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to go buy a domain. And I went out and bought mygolfingstore.com. I texted him. He texted me back. He was like, let's go. Like, got super excited. And then basically he became my mentor from start to end now. And we still, we're still really close, and we're in masterminds together or business mentor groups. But yeah, so that's kind of where manufacturing came to where I'm at now, but obviously there's some in between of how I made that transition. So
cool. And now business is booming. You maxed out your credit card, but you made that money back fairly quickly, right? How quickly
yeah
to do that? And I know it's not like a recommended strategy on how to business, but it's an interesting story though. So what happened there?
Yeah, so I didn't know how I was going to start paying for everything because I was living paycheck to paycheck, right? So what I did was I knew that I was going to have to spend money to do it. So I went out and I got a credit card with $25,000 limit, 18-month payback with 0% APR. And I just maxed it out. I just listened to everything that my buddy was telling me to buy in like what softwares and CRMs or whatever. And mind you, I had no idea what these things were, but I was just listening because I fully believed that, if somebody's done it already, then just put your trust in them and make sure you pre-qualify this person, obviously, too. Like, don't just go out and pick some random person. So anyway, yeah. So in the first 3 months, I maxed the card out building this business. And then in the following 3 months, I made all of it back, and I've been in the green ever since. So
congratulations.
Yeah, it was quite the 6 months, though.
Wow. So now, at what point did you then decide to quit your job, right? So obviously,
Yeah.
probably wasn't like, when you made your money back, you were still working. Like, what was that
Hmm.
kind of like
Yep.
transition?
So I made my money back, and then actually stayed at my 9 to 5 for another year from that point on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the reason being, and I do believe that I could have left earlier, and I probably should have, but I was nervous because I was like, oh, I'm gonna put all the faith in my own hands. But
Mm-hmm.
in that first year, I was really taking that time while I was in my 9 to 5 to learn the actual systems that I was using or where I was navigating next and just kind of learn the industry, right? So I was taking that time to just make sure I knew enough to get out on my own. So then
Mm-hmm.
after that year came up, um, I was basically at a point where I was making enough where I could replace my income.
Mm-hmm.
But also, something that's really dangerous is when you get incomes that are both the same amount, it's hard to leave one and take the jump. I should have jumped sooner. So,
Mm.
but yeah, so it came to the point where I was like, okay, it's either sink or swim. What kind of life do you want? And then I went in. I told manufacturing that, hey, like if you don't put me on a swing or on a regular day job, I'm gonna leave. And they're like, yeah, whatever. 3 weeks later, I came in and I said, hey, here's my notice, and they were shocked. And I was like, well, I just can't do it anymore. And they're like, well, what's it gonna cost to keep you here? And I said, it's too late, and I left. So that's
Wow,
how I made the jump.
that's good. And how has the journey been? Because, entrepreneurship is certainly not easy. And obviously, if you look into the stats, the number of companies that are started and fail, it's quite a lot. And, you've been able to sustain and live over a year, which is an accomplishment. So how has business been? And before you even answer that, first of all, dive into your business. You said
Yeah,
mygolfingstore.com is your website. So, you sell golf products, I'm guessing, right?
yeah, yeah. So we actually started with online training, where we had
Hmm.
like a PGA coach that would film videos, and we'd have a little membership area, so you get a little recurring revenue in there.
Hmm.
Um, and then the whole business has been based off of training aids that give instant feedback. So it's meant for simplicity. You don't have to overanalyze and like use big golfing terms to get it. And we just went after the people that are like kind of the weekend warriors and they just want to play golf. So that's how it started. And then we still use some of that model. But since then, we've transitioned into other products like the rangefinder that you can see on the course where it locks into the pin and reads slope and all that good stuff about golf and just helping improve your game. But it's still a gadget to help improve your game. So the whole company has been built on becoming a better golfer, and it's still there. But as your journey goes, you will make changes in the process. So that's where we're at now. But ever since I left my 9 to 5, I mean, we've like 6 or 7 x'd.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah,
That's
and a part of that is because I came into some other really smart marketers that I still work with. I have Tom, who's a really great copywriter, and then I have Matt, who is like business strategy and in charge of traffic. And those guys were big on the ClickBank scene before I really knew what I was doing. So I got into works with them, and yeah, we kind of just all the three brain powers of ours kind of blew it up. So
cool.
that's it.
So you mentioned a couple of things here. So the first thing is partnerships.
Hmm.
A lot of people, they get into it, they want to be a solopreneur. But in Africa, we say, like, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And it
Hmm.
looks like you've listened to the African wisdom and found a couple of people to go together with on this journey.
Yep.
What can you say, is the importance or the value of, having the right business partners as you're trying to grow and scale a business?
Yeah. So the number one thing is making sure they're a good fit personality wise for you. Make sure their values are in line because you're going to spend a lot of time with these people, you know,
Mhm.
and inevitably you're going to have disagreements around things. And when those times come, you all want to be able to handle them with maturity and as a business and not have it affect your actual friendship or whatever. So yeah, values and personality are number one for me. But then the second biggest thing obviously is what are you not good at that you need help with and how can you
Mhm.
create something strategic in a way that it values all the businesses. So, for instance, mine was I'm not a copywriter, and I never will be. I don't want to write copy, so I have Tom, and then I didn't have any traffic sources or any great ones, and Matt did, so I brought in Matt. They both complemented that, and then basically right off the bat, we started, 2xing, 3xing the company within 3-4 months.
Great.
So yeah, you just find strategic ones. And the way I did it too was they only got paid if they brought value and profits to the business. So really,
Mhm.
it was pretty sure fit for me, right? It's not low risk, and if it didn't work, it didn't work, But the upside was much greater. So that's how I kind of got into it with them, and it's proven to be quite lucrative for all of us.
Great. So, one thing I like to talk about on this shows is mindset.
Hmm.
Because if you think about it, you're still the same person, right? If
Right.
you think about it, right? But what really shifted was your mindset, where you went from, you know what, I can do it, I can do this entrepreneurial thing. Whereas other people, they still have the same talent, they're still the same person in a sense, but the mindset maybe is the thing that stops them from taking that first step, taking that credit card, right? That
Right.
risk to say, like, hey, I'm going to give it a shot and see what happens. So, what are some of the key things you can share from your own experience with regards to the necessary tools to become an entrepreneur? Like, what are some of those things that make that list of, like, hey, these are the 3 or 4 or 5 things that you need to have within your mindset if you are really gonna jump from, just having that regular 9 to 5 job to now being an entrepreneur who's in more control of your destiny.
Yeah. So for me, I actually wasn't even sure that I believed in myself when it happened, but I was around people that believed in me, and they kind of forced me over the edge. Um, they were basically like, what's your like drawback, or like what are you afraid of? And I would explain it, and then they would be like, well, just do this, and I'd be like, "Oh, all right." So then I started thinking, and I was like, I'm self-driven. I want to do better. I want to create value in the world. So that's when I was kind of like, all right, I can do this. So I have a really strong competitive nature as well. I want to succeed at all things I do. Even when I was working at my 9 to 5, I wanted to, be the best that I could be there as well.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I mean, for me, it's self-driven. You don't procrastinate because sometimes an entrepreneur, you basically eat what you kill, right? So
Yep, yep, yep.
yeah, and then competitive nature and making making a big difference in people's lives is the number one reason or way to create wealth, right? The more impact you can create, then the more wealth you'll have just by nature. So yeah, I guess those are the things that I always was kind of stuck on at the start and just not sure how to apply it. So
Hmm.
I just got the mentor that was like, this is how you apply all those things. And I was like, oh man, this is a lot easier than I thought it would be if you just take the jump.
And then just do it. And then the other one that I'll share or articulate is that you should always be growing, because I think as
Hmm.
individuals, if you're not growing, you're dying. And you touched on being in masterminds,
Hmm.
um, and doing certain things so that you just continue on this growth path. How important is it for you to always be, developing yourself personally? And in my mind, I feel like the number one investment anybody can make is investing in yourself. So
Yeah.
can you share a little bit about that? And if there are certain things that you actually do spend money as an investment in yourself, what are those things?
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, that's the number one thing. And I'll start here. When I first wanted to start my own business, I started it because I wanted to be rich, right? And I was like, oh man, I'm going to be rich. And then I started like acquiring some wealth, and I was like, that's not really why I wanted to do this. And then I started being like, okay, how can I grow, affect people, and then build this really great lifestyle? But also then I get the ability to take care of people that I care
Mhm.
about, or just random people. I can go to a restaurant and leave a great tip and just make that person feel good. And I think those are the things that get addicting. It's not just
Mm,
about yourself. And then as you start doing well, your mind slowly starts changing and growing and growing. But anyway, I I personally invest, I don't know, 75,000 or $100,000 a year on myself in masterminds and learning and stuff like that. And you get people that are like, I spent 100 grand on college, and I'm like, so did I. But I used to complain about that because I didn't like that philosophy. But now it's like, what can I spend more on myself so I can grow and grow and grow? It's just I've always seen an ROI on it. I've never like bought a mentorship thing. Well, maybe I have, but I can't rename it off the top of my head. But like every time I bought something and invested in myself, I've taken something out of it and grown. So
yeah, and I'd like to add to that as well, which is that they say that you're the average of the five people you spend the most time with. When you're part of these masterminds and these communities, you're literally just changing your surroundings, right? The people that you're around. And sometimes
mhm,
when you surround yourself with, people who are, way ahead in terms of their own entrepreneurial journey, they push you, right?
mhm,
And there's just a tremendous energy around where you can both feed in from each other. So that's why I really believe that if you're really gonna cut it out as an entrepreneur, making sure that you're investing in yourself, I think is one of the most important areas you want to focus on. And also, if you have a main job and you have a side hustle and you're trying to make the transition, you should also consider doing that, because when you surround yourself with mentors and other people who've been there, done that, the things that you're trying to do, you compress decades into days, right? Because
oh yeah,
they've already learned and made all the mistakes, and they can then just come and give it to you in like a 1 hour keynote, or in a
mhm,
online course that you can just learn and avoid a lot of those mistakes, and then you just accelerate towards your destination. So it's literally switching lanes to get into the HOV lane and just going straight through,
yeah,
so I think that's another key thing that I feel budding entrepreneurs should do. So as we
yeah.
wrap, Tyler, what are some of the 2 or 3 things that you say, like, hey, these are the key ingredients for success? So if you were to, bake a delicious cookie, in this case, it's being a successful entrepreneur. What are some of the ingredients that someone should have? And I know we touched on some of them a little bit, but I'm just curious to see, like, if there are other things that you feel are key if you're gonna achieve success.
Um, yeah. I mean, I have several things that I can think about that. Um, but one of mine is being able to have thick skin and being able to be turned down, because people are going to turn you down all day long to start. Until they know who you are, they're going to say no to you over and over and over again. And if you can't take that, it's going to be very hard, because it's very easy to run into like a wall. And if you hit that wall, it's very easy to retract into back to your like subconscious mind and just be like, oh, I can't do it. Well, that's not reality. You need to break through the wall. And if you don't have thick skin, you're not going to get there. So that's kind of my first one is, be able to be rejected, because it's going to happen. The other one is you got to be ambitious and creative. You know,
Mm,
you can't go into it just saying, I want to make money, because at the end of the day, you can only make so much. You might have some quick success, but you're never going to have long term success if you're not taking other people's lives into your hands and saying, I want to bring you value.
mhm, mhm.
Um, so that's another one. Uh, Geez, I'm trying to think. Oh, well, mentorship is the other one, right? Don't be afraid to get mentorship. You don't have to do it on your own. And in fact, I think being an entrepreneur can feel very lonely.
Mm,
At times you're like, oh man, why am I doing this? Like, yeah,
don't be.
you got, yeah, yeah, exactly. Get people in your circle like that. And like you said, like your circle is your top 5 friends, or richest friends, maybe you call it that. But for instance, last week I was in Chicago with 16 guys that have multi-million-dollar businesses, and we all went out to dinner every night, drinks at night. But the idea is that just get fired around, and then you come home and implement. That's another key to success, is you have to be an implementer. And if you're not a good
Execution is.
one, yeah, if you're not one, then you better hire somebody that is,
Yeah. You know
because
what
that's
they
the only
say?
way to move faster.
Yeah. What they say is that knowledge is potential power. So it's not knowledge is power. Knowledge is potential power. It's really the execution of that knowledge, right? Putting that knowledge into action. That's where the value is truly unlocked. So Tyler, thank you so much for jumping on and sharing your story. For viewers, if you're a golf player, go to mygolfingstore.com and take a look at some of the things that they have. They have the courses with the PGA coach. They also have products that will really help you on your golf game. But more importantly, take away the lessons that Tyler shared during this chat, where he went from working in a factory in a dead end job, making paper, to really changing his life in creating a multi-million dollar business that is not only just provided for him and his family, but it has been able to also impact the people that are around him, while he's also investing in himself. So I wish you all the best, my friend, and I look forward to tracking your journey really closely and seeing where you go. And if you have any last words for the listeners, anything that you want to share, of how they can find you, some of your products, anything, feel free to say it before we head out.
Yeah, well, first of all, I appreciate you having me here. Big fan of yours, as you know, as well. So the other thing I have to say really is just, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, don't be afraid to fail and really go after it, because I was always like, I'm not good enough to do this. Like, it's not going to be me. Well, that's a lie, and it's a limiting belief, and you can do it. So get out there and get after it. That's really what it's all about.
Awesome. So go out there, get after it. Have a wonderful day, and go start your own $1 million journey. Take care, guys.